All right, recording is started. All right, so we're doing implementing Active Directory certificate service, and this one is about 30 slides, 20 to 30 slides shorter than it was last night. So you will have a bit more time to go over some extra things after we're done with this. All right, so we're going to be talking about Active Directory certificate services. So ADCS is a server role in Server 2016 that provides the services for creating public key infrastructure. It adds a level of security for a variety of applications such as VPNs, EFS, smart cards, and secure socket layer, transport layer security, or SSL TLS. That's what they're talking about when they're talking about anything. Anytime you see them talking about certs, they're talking about like the secured. Sorry, I've been talking too much today. They're talking about things that are locked down or encrypted usually. Okay. Public key infrastructure overview. We've talked about this a bit. So a public key infrastructure is a security system that binds a user or device's identity to a cryptographic key. PKI is the following, provides the following services to a network: confidentiality, integrity, non-repudiation, authentication. So this should sound familiar. Without adequate security, communications can be tampered with, causing websites to be redirected or other unwanted behavior. There's a nice big list of components: plaintext, ciphertext, keys, secret keys, private keys, public keys, symmetric and asymmetric cryptography, digital certificate, digital signatures, and certificate authorities. So there's your question there's on the, whether or not we're talking about certificate authorities. It's not quite the same, but it is related. So here is the nice little figure on steps of a secure web transaction. So request secure transaction. This one goes top down. And then it says, here's my certificate. Certificate is verified. Here's the encrypted session key. And then data can be transferred securely by using session key. Now that's if nothing goes wrong. That's what it should look like. ADCS terminology. Some of these should, actually pretty much all of these, since we've gone through most of this in other classes, should look familiar. There's a certificate revocation list, certificate templates, certificate distribution points, Delta CRL, Enterprise CA. That's your certificate authority. So there are different certificate authorities. Remember us just talking about that. There's an enterprise certificate authority, means one for your enterprise. There's a standalone certificate authority, enrollment agency, CA hierarchy, online responder, certificate enrollment, key management, and then there's authority information access. I think the reason they breeze over these so quickly is that it's just things that you should see and that you've gone over before. So they just want you to be aware that they're there. Deploying Active Directory certificate services role. Some ADCS options you should be aware of before deploying the server role include standalone and enterprise CAs, online and offline CAs, CA hierarchy, and certificate practice statements. Standalone and enterprise CAs. So an enterprise CA is a server running Windows Server with the ADCS role installed. A standalone CA is a server running Windows Server with the ADCS role installed, but with little Active Directory integration. So that's the difference on that one there. Network with non-Windows devices needs at least one standalone CA. So that's why you have why the standalone CA you see with minimal Active Directory integration. on a standalone CA. It's not usually used for, usually the enterprise CA is used for your regular Windows, Microsoft devices, and the standalone CA is what you'll use when you have to have non-Windows devices use that as well. And here is your list of standalone CA versus enterprise CA. So on the standalone, Active Directory is not required, whereas on the enterprise, it is required, and the server must be a member server or domain controller. In the standalone, it can operate offline, whereas enterprise, it has to be online. Standalone certificate requests must be approved manually. And the enterprise certificate requests approved manually or automatically by using Active Directory information. Standalone, no certificate templates are available. Enterprise, you have the templates. On standalone certificates not published in Active Directory, and enterprise they are. In standalone, requesters must enter identifying information in certificate requests manually. And in enterprise, identifying information is taken directly from Active Directory. CA certificate are distributed manually in standalones, and they are done automatically in enterprise. CRL optionally published to Active Directory, and then enterprise is automatically done. So this just is a nice little table to show you the difference between the two. Online and offline CAs. If a CA is compromised, all certificates the CA has issued are also compromised and must be revoked immediately. Offline CAs aren't connected to the network. All certificates and CRLs must be distributed with removable media. Root CA is the server most typically configured for offline operation. Offline CAs must be standalone CAs. So you saw that table there where it was like, this thing can be offline, this thing can't be, it has to be online. So that explains right there why. So it has to be a standalone CA because the other one can't be offline. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Oops. Yep, okay. All right, CA hierarchy. The root CA is the first CA installed on a network. Two-level hierarchy involves the root CA issuing certificates to subordinate CAs called issuing CAs. Three-level hierarchy involves root CA issuing certificates to intermediate CAs, sometimes they're called policy CAs, which then issue certificates to other CAs. Multi-level CA hierarchies are commonly used to distribute certificate issuing load in organizations with multiple locations. So unless you have multiple locations, you usually don't see that. Here's an example of this. So you see your one with the regular one here, you have your root, CA, standalone, offline, and then you see your issuing down here. And then on this one, you see your root CA, and then you have your intermediates, and then you have your other ones branched down on the bottom there. Okay, certificate practice statements. A certificate practice statement, or CPS, and you know, this is where those things mean different things. CPS is not Child Protective Services, and here it is. Certificate practice statement is a document describing how a CA issues certificates, not a required component of PKI, but should be developed as part of planning process when an organization is designing its PKI. So you know how we've talked about industry standards and best practices, and this is one of those components that you want to have just in case. So it's best to have it designed rather than not have it there if you possibly need it. ACPS usually contains the identification of the CA, security practices used to maintain CA integrity, types of certificates used, policies and procedures used, cryptographic algorithms used, certificate lifetimes, CRL related policies, including where the CRL distribution points are located, renewal policy of the CA certificate, and they are installed by creating a CA policy.inf file and placing it in the system root directory. That's my leg, cat. Come here. Installing ADCS roles. So best practice dictates the ADCS role shouldn't be installed on a domain controller. Ideally, ADCS should be the only installed role. So that's why you want to separate this one out. And if you're going to have ADCS, it should be not be like they say on a domain controller, it should be on something else. So enterprise CAs must be installed on a member server running Windows Server Standard or Data Center Edition. ADCS is installed by adding ADCS role in Server Manager. During the installation, you have the option to install several role services, including Certification Authority, Certificate Enrollment Policy Web Service, Certificate Enrollment Web Service, Certification Authority Web Enrollment, Network Device Enrollment Service, and Online Responder. Configuring a certification authority. After installing ADCS on a server, you must perform several configuration tasks before the CA can be used properly. Configure certificate templates, configure enrollment options, configure the online responder, and create a revocation configuration. Configuring your certificate templates. So if you install an enterprise CA, a number of predefined certificate templates can be configured to generate certificates. Windows Server 2016 supports 4 versions of certificate templates. Version 1 is supported by, it looks, if you look at them, they go numerically, they go up based on the versions of server. So version 1 supports Server 2003 Standard Edition and 2000. Version 2 is 2003 Enterprise Edition and later. Version 3 is Windows 2008, 2000 Vista or 2008 or Vista and later. And 4, you have to have 2012 R2 and Vista and later. So just be aware when you're using those templates, which version goes with what version of server. So here you see the certificate templates. You can see you have your different templates here, and you can go through theirs and change them in the snap-in. A common certificate type is one used for EFS, which allows users to encrypt and decrypt files on a hard drive. The basic EFS template is used to issue certificates to users so they can protect files with EFS. The EFS recovery agent template is used to issue certificates to users who are designated as recovery agents, so that EFS encrypted files can be recovered if user's EFS certificate becomes unusable for some reason. And you can see this is just an example of that EFS recovery agent properties. You have your different tabs here, general request handling, subject name, extension, security, and then you just work through and change things on there. And if you look, you also see minimum supported CAs. It'll tell you right there. Configuring certificate enrollment options. Certificate enrollment occurs when a user or device requests a certificate and the certificate is granted. Enrollment can occur with several methods: auto enrollment, certificate MMC, web enrollment, network device enrollment services, or smart card enrollment. Configuring certificate auto enrollment. When auto enrollment is configured, users and devices don't have to make explicit certificate requests to be issued certificates. Most commonly used for EFS, auto enrollment is enabled in the computer configuration or user configuration node of the group policy management console. Auto enrollment is configured for certificate templates in the request handling, issuance requirements, and security tabs of a templates properties dialog box. So you see here, you have your auto enrollment properties, and you can see what type of configuration model it is. You have your renew expired certificate, update pending, update certificate, the use certificate templates, log expiry events, and you have all your other stuff there. Then you have your properties of new templates, and you see down here you have the enroll subject without requiring any user input, or prompt user during enrollment, or prompt user during enrollment and require user input when private key is used. Then here you have CA cert manager approval, and then this number of authorized signatures. And then you have the section down there that they're talking about on following enrollment. And here's your properties. Do the following when a certificate request is received, and you can either set cert request status to pending, but then your administrator has to explicitly issue the certificate or follow the settings in the certificate template. If applicable, otherwise automatically issue certificate, which reduces the amount of overhead you have if you're an administrator to manually go out and check all of that. So that's usually what they choose to do. Requesting a certificate with certificate snap-in. Users can request certificates that aren't configured for auto enrollment by using the certificate snap-in. This method for requesting certificates can be used only with enterprise CAs. Auto enrollment is preferred. So you remember that table where they were talking about auto versus manual. So because the other ones, if you remember, required all the manual stuff, the enterprise CA is the only one that does auto enrollment. So auto enrollment is preferred over manual requests. You might want to use manual requests if the following is true. You want users to know their certificate information, or you have specialized templates that only a few users require. So here's your example for request certificates. And then you have, on this one, you have your options there. Configuring web enrollment requires installing the Certificate Authority Web Enrollment Role Service. Web enrollment is the main method for accessing CA services on a standalone CA. To access the Certificate Authority Web Enrollment Role Service, users simply open a browser and browse to the server's page. Server configured for web enrollment is called a registration authority or a CA web proxy. Using network device enrollment services. Network device enrollment services, or NDES, allows network devices such as routers and switches to obtain certificates by using simple certificate. So every time I say certificate, it sounds weird because I'm trying to say cert and I have to force myself to say certificate. So simple certificate enrollment protocol, or SCEP, a Cisco proprietary protocol. Cisco devices can request and obtain certificates to run IPsec, even if they don't have domain credentials. Follow the steps in the text to install and configure NDES. So if you want to see how to do that, you have that out in your book. Using smart card enrollment, this takes place through web enrollment at a smart card station. A user supplies credentials to request the smart card certificate and presents his or her card. Then the certificate information is embedded in it's in their car. No, card, I think is what that's supposed to say. A user designated as an enrollment agent can enroll smart card certificates on behalf of its users. Enrollment agents must be issued an enrollment agent certificate to perform this task. ADCS offers restricted enrollment agents. Administrators can configure smart card certificate templates to specify which users or groups an enrollment agent can enroll in the certificate. Oops, sorry. Configuring online responder. An online responder enables client to check the certificate's revocation status without having to download the CRL. To use the online responder role service must be installed with the CA role or later, requires web server role service, and then follow steps in your text again for online responder. Creating a revocation configuration. A revocation configuration tells the CA what methods are available for clients to access CRLs. To create a revocation configuration, you use Active Directory certificate services snap-in under roles node in Server Manager. So here's your little thing that shows your revoke certificate properties, and it has your publication interval that you can set, and that tells it how long to publish it for. Maintaining and managing a PKI. By default, administrators can perform all tasks on a CA server. After roles have been assigned, administrators can perform only tasks related to their assigned roles. 4 key roles must be filled to administer a CA and its components: your CA administrator, certificate manager, backup operator, and auditor. Backup, CA backup and restore. So regular backup of all servers in a network is mandatory. You know, I would like to say that this would be one of those duh statements, because I think we've repeated it all multiple times here, but I am positive that some of you are going to run into places where they're going to balk at doing full types of restores. Be aware that there are people out there that do not understand why backups are important. So full backup or system state backup on a CA server automatically backs up the certificate store along with other data. The CA console includes a simple wizard-based backup utility you can use to perform backups with the following options: private key and CA, and certificate database and certificate database log. CA backups and restores can be done with the cert util command as well. Key and certificate archival and recovery. If a user's private key is lost or damaged, he or she might lose access to the systems or documents. By using key archival, private keys can be locked away and then restored if user's private key is lost. 2 methods for archiving private keys are the manual, and that involves exporting the certificate, or automatic, which uses a key recovery agent. So the certificate export wizard exports the certificate and can export the private key if allowed. You're prompted to select the format for the certificate export. The only format supported for exporting the private key along with the certificate is personal information exchange. So here's your example of what this looks like. And you see that one down on the bottom here, personal information exchange, and then you have a bunch of different options down there. Automatic key archival uses a key recovery agent, or KRA, which is designated user, which is a designated user with the rights to recover archival keys. KRA has a lot of power, so use choose your user carefully when you do that. This is one of those things that you want to be really careful who is doing what, because the wrong person can make a lot of mistakes. Designated user must enroll for a key recovery certificate after the KRA template has been configured to allow the designated user to enroll. The KRA certificate is then added to the recovery agents tab of the CA server's property dialog box. So here's your example of what that looks like. All right, now I am not going to read all of these to you guys because I'm pretty sure that all of us will be bleeding at the ears, but this is another one of those nice PowerShell commandlet section. So I'd suggest you go in and take a look at these, and it'll help you. My eyes are bleeding looking at this. Yeah, I know it's kind of painful, but it's one of those sections that you can just snip out and add. It is really good if you're going to be doing PowerShell. Okay, so I told you guys this was going to be short and sweet today, so there you go. All right.
So you lied to us, because there's nothing.
Okay, there's no
about
sweet.
Any of these slides.
They're short. Okay, you're right there. It's short. I'm gonna stop, and then I'm gonna add the recording, and then I'll answer some questions.